Now, guys, first of all, I've got to apologise. I've never done a cliffhanger before, and I thought when I was editing the video, it just kind of happened, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I will leave a wee cliffhanger out there, see if see if it's a good laugh or whatever. So, without any further ado, guys, here is where I left off last time. So after listening to the pod with John and Perez and talking and thinking about all the stuff that I spoke to you about in the last video, that then led me to the prize pool. And I thought, let me just go and see, because now, since they recorded, there's more information available to us. So let me go see if there's any telltale signs, anything I can get excited about, anything that's not obvious at a glance, with me keeping that kind of stuff that I've just explained to you in the last video in my head. Is there an opportunity somewhere? Can I maybe get a tactical advantage in the SO5 arena with the prize pool dynamics in mind? Okay, and the most interesting thing that I've came across so far, right, is let's say we look at Champion Euro, right, just rare, and we can see the star rares and all that kind of stuff, right? That's all obvious, right? This is where everyone looks, right? First of all, right, obviously Haaland's been put in there and Bellingham. I mentioned that in the last video. You don't know that yourself by now, of course. A lot of these guys have been just chucked in, right? But when you go to tier 3, right, because of the whole price discovery element of all of this, when you look at the tier 3, this is just Champion Euro, right? But the quality is significantly increased at the bottom of this pool. Look how big the pool is now for tier 3 Champion Euro alone. A lot of these guys are populated now into the pool, but it really feels that a lot of them, maybe quite appropriately, are in the tier 3 category, in the tier 3 mould. Some of these guys are good, don't get me wrong, they're solid scorers. Not many of them are naff. Most of them are like first team players of sorts. They might not be 38 game a season guys, but most of these guys, if you go and investigate their situation, they play on occasion at the very worst or whatever else it might be. So the quality of the tier 3 pool is significantly increased because of that whole discovery element. They are in a pander to get as many cards out as possible. We know that already, of course, just because of the demand we have for good, exciting prizes, right? But when I span that into All-Star Rare Tier 3, you'll see the same thing happen. Let's wait for the page to catch up. There we go. And we're on Tier 3. So we're still going to have a lot of non-Champion Euro contingents in here. Of course we are, okay? There's a lot of Challenger Euro guys popping up. But look at this. Suso of Sevilla. Now, this is the top of the Tier 3 pool, right? But Suso, and even you could argue Chris Mueller, was definitely a former star rare. He's a bit of a different situation. But Suso, the reason he's important is because Sevilla, of course, are not long on the platform. And then as we scroll down, we're going to find a few more of them. I kind of already know it. Trammell, goalkeeper at Union Berlin. I'm not sure if he's actually the number 1 or the number 2, to be honest with you, but I know that's who he is and what he does and where he's at. Thomas Delaney, Sevilla, Mainz, Celta Vigo, Beltran, who again, if you're up to date with all my members streams and stuff like that, or I don't know if I've actually released it yet, but we talk about Beltran. Michael Lindell was a top end guy when they came onto the platform because his stats are crazy, even though he's like 35 or whatever. Florian Kainz is okay, Klaasen's okay, Shimikas plays when Robbo doesn't. Dennis Suarez, Matt Miazga, Gadi Kinda. This tier 3 pool, from the feeling of it, this is the top end, right? So we're going to throw ourselves right to the bottom end, okay? The very bottom end, in theory, it should be the bottom of the actual physical list. So there's no it's not in like alphabetical order or region sort or anything like that. So we've got a lot of non-EU, but obviously right at the bottom here we've got Wataru Endo, who plays for Stuttgart, newly licensed club, right at the bottom of that pool. Is that a justified spot for him? I would say no. Is he below? I just won this guy, Caleb Stanko. He's definitely not below Caleb Stanko, I can tell you that for nothing. We still do have a lot of the non-EU stuff, right? It's a very big pool. Excuse me. But some of these guys will be getting pushed down into tier 3 because better cards are now populating the top end of tier 3 into tier 2 as well. It's actually a lot more scrolling involved here than I remember before making the video. So I basically went and did all this investigation after listening to John and just thought, wow, there's maybe something here that I can get a little tactical edge on. I'm just going to dive up a bit more. So, like I mentioned in the last video, there will be cards, and I know there is cards. I can give you a good example. The now, you know his name. He has no cards yet for this season. Okay, there's another couple of guys like him. He's just the best example, easiest for me to remember, closest to hand. If we hit on season 21 to 22, it says there's 50. They're all German. So maybe it may even be part that they've sold. Oh no, he's got them now. Oh, so how many limiteds has he got there? I seen one Bayern limited. He must have come out in a reward, I suppose, because he's not had any auctions. So there's one limited Goretzka. No rares, no super rares. So that's why Clarence is probably asking for a pretty penny. First one out is number 101. So I don't know if they've maybe allocated the first 100 Goretzkas to be German, perhaps, because that's the way the international thing works. But anyway, there's a lot of players now that aren't in the pool, and there's a lot of players that still don't have cards, okay? So with everything that we're talking about across the last video and this video, there's still a massive gap to be filled by absentees, you know, guys who just aren't in the reckoning at all. But I'm noticing a big increase in the quality of the tier 3s. When I look at the tier 2s, again, I'm finding a similar kind of result. I'll have a look at, I'm not going to look at the tier 1s and the stars because you know they're always kind of semi-decent or whatever, right? But we're going to see a lot more of these guys coming in from the Bundesliga and from La Liga as time goes on. They're going to be filtering up through the discovery stage into tier 3, into tier 2 and work their way up. Because again, there's Max Cruz. There's a lot of guys that might be auto-populated depending on the auctions they have already, but they're definitely not accurate. There's a lot of gems in the bottom reaches. In tier 3, there's gems to be had all around D2 now. We've got a lot more interesting cards knocking about. Ellis Tondo of Sociedad came up in a few of the things I was looking at. Statistical, you know, so to have him in a tier 2 pool, champion Euro guy, starts most games, is contributing whatever. There's Grealish. I'm just trying to catch club names as I'm scrolling down kind of quick for you guys. Joe Scally. Just so you can kind of see the point. Now, when you kind of wind that back, okay, so it looks like the tier 3 and the tier 2 is kind of swelling up. Now, when you look at All-Star, there is, when we're looking at prize pools, right, and we're talking about how shit or how good they are, right, quite a lot of the time we're basing that gauge on like the tier 1 and above allocation to a division in a prize pool, whatever, right? But there's 201 to 584, so that means there's 384 tier 3s getting dropped out. Some of them will be garbage, of course they will, but there's a lot of little gems dotted around there now, as well as the rare. When I go and look at Champion Euro, it becomes even more appealing to me now to be entering into Champ Euro, because those tier 3s are paid out from 55 to 171, so it's at 116 or something like that, okay? If we look at the tier details and then we check out tier 3 Champion Euro, we're going to feel this a lot more in Champion Euro itself as a region. So at the top, again, I've already kind of looked at this, I think, with you guys. This is the top of the tier 3 pool. There's 120 of these cards going to get dished out. You can see straight away a lot of these guys are relative, you know, I say household names in inverted commas. To me and you, it's a household name, you know. And if we throw ourselves right to the bottom, our boy Endo's still there. And again, we've still got guys that make appearances. Unai Garcia, guys that still play. Pina in these new divisions. They've not had the price discovery yet. They've not had enough of an allocation to appropriate them. Now, what this is going to lead to in time, right, is a lot of these moving pieces stop moving and everything can settle into a formation, if you like. What is then going to happen is we're then going to notice that the star pool is going to, there will be more, that there will be less incorrect pool allocations at the top end of everything, okay? So what I mean by that is the guys that end up in the star pool, because there is so much more variety of player available for you to buy on auction, for me to play in SO5 and for somebody to win in a prize pool, the guys that end up in the star pool will be the best of the best of the best. The tier 1 pool will become better as a result, and subsequently tier 2s and tier 3s, where most people feel the pain of like, oh yes, I just want a reward and it's dog shit, those pools, especially in the short term where a lot of these things are figuring their gauge out and where they should be and all the rest of it, are going to increase in quality. So it's definitely something that, you know, from before, like, I'd look at Champion Euro D4 and think there's no way I'm going after that, because like the tier 3s, I'm not even interested in them, you know, I don't give a hoot, they're all crap. Whereas now with Champion Euro D4, I can think, right, well, maybe I will just go for it in D4, and then if I do pull out a tier 3 and it's somebody like a Suso, or who else did we have here? Plattenhard is a good guy. I know him. Not personally, of course, but I've came across them. And there's a couple of great examples in here of guys that you could pick up quite feasibly as a tier 3 reward that would make it all the more worthwhile. And as I say, I think this will be one of those situations, because you guys will remember when Van de Voort first came out and his kind of error, like they just put him into tier 3 and let him work his way up. If you win one of these guys as like a tier 3 reward, that could be something you bank into your club for the rest of the season and could do fucking great for you. Or you might sell it and, you know, get a great yield from a tier 3 versus what you could have done before. So the Champion Euro region has become a lot more interesting. It's become a lot more exciting. Even at rare level, just, you know, the D4 as we call it, the variety of prizes available is much, much bigger, of course. And like I say, what we're going to find is the guys without the bias. Now, what the bias has been before is just who's been on the platform. So, like, the best midfielder when I started was Vanaken, right? The only reason Vanaken isn't the best midfielder now is just because there's other guys that are better than Vanaken. It's not that he's got not as good or whatever, but when you've got Vanaken and Kimmich, then you've now got two options for a powerhouse midfielder. And then you go on and you get Real Madrid and you've got Toni Kroos. And then you go on and you get Barca, you get Frankie de Jong. And then you go on and get this team and they've got somebody, and they've got somebody, and they've got somebody. And then before you know it, Vanaken's still a top performer, but the price gets suppressed because there's now just more options. If you want a top guy, you don't need to get that one guy available. You can go and get like one of 10 guys that are available. And as that starts to show itself over time, the market will adjust and reflect, and the pools, the water in the pools will circle and will correlate appropriately around that. So I'm really excited, guys. I am really excited to be doing a wee bit of tier 3 roulette, a wee bit of tier 2 roulette in the Champion Euro region in particular. And as always, in the All-Star and in the U23, I've got a good feeling that some guys that would have been like tier 2, for example, that some Bundesliga or some La Liga guys have came on and they occupy tier 2 now. I think there'll also be a wee bit of promotion and relegation going on with some of these tiers, because, like, yes, they want the star rare pool to be as big as possible, but they don't want it to be as big as possible at the expense of quality, because if you're winning a star rare, you expect a standard. So some of these tiers, and again, we don't have full details because Sorare do keep some details to themselves, but I dare say as the tiers go up, you know, tier 1 is star rare in particular, maybe tier 2, they must have maybe some sort of guidance on the headcount. And subsequently, if that is the case, then what we're going to have is guys that were tier 2 that get demoted because a lot of German and La Liga guys are coming through the tier 3 ranks, getting into tier 2, and it's pulling in that guy. Look, I'm looking at this here now. Jessiel, or whatever his name is the top tier 3 from Kawasaki Frontale. This guy, he's only got one reward left, it must be said. But this guy is a killer. He's got 100 2 games ago, and he's in the tier 3 pool. Now, he is at the top of the tier 3 pool, right? But he's in there. And it kind of, so this is all the kind of lines I'm thinking. These are the kind of the angles I'm looking to exploit. This is the 28th of October is when I've recorded this video. Between now and really the turn of the year, well, I think a lot of these things will correct themselves with more auctions, with more prizes, with more teams getting one, you know, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, tier 3s, guys, are worth chasing, I think, at this point in time. If you're on the fence of, should I just do this or do that? And one of the options is, you know, just nothing to lose, let's go for it. Then let's go for it. If it is maybe upgrading your global all-star midfielder, sell that guy that pulls in 40 to 50 and buy the guy that pulls in 60 to 70. Now's probably, only my opinion, all speculation, do your own research, a good time to do that, because jumping your scores up and pulling where the most tier 3s are available, of course, is global. You do have added jeopardy with global because the prize pool is global. But increasing your SO5 output, the now, could be great, because those tier 3 prizes that are quite readily available for some of you guys out there could be the difference between, you know, you're chasing that in Champion Euro or All-Star versus, oh, I might win a tier 3 challenger. The tier 3 challenger situation hasn't actually changed if you are in tier 3 challenger. Under 23, let's have a look at that. It's probably the only thing we haven't looked at that is relevant. But under 23 pool, I'm looking at tier 3 again. So at the top, we've got Tuta here from Frankfurt. We've got Julian Araujo down here. That is a crime that he's a tier 3. There's Dennis Geiger. Scored a goal recently. He'll have some good scores in his last 5, no doubt. And again, I'm probably missing some guys. I'm trying to scroll quick and name grab at the same time. There's a boy from Vallecano. In Teka, he's got really good dribbling stats, if memory serves me well. Bochum. So again, yeah, in this under 23 pool, Carlos Alena. Carlos Alena, the former, this is going to be the next Maradona coming out of La Masia, who's got a 70 in his last 5 years. He's got a DNP and a crap score. But Carlos Alena used to be the big thing coming out of La Masia before Fati and before Pedri and all these guys. It's not really worked out for him, unfortunately. But he's in the tier 3 pool. Kevin Cabral, one of the most reliable, he's not spectacular, but one of the most reliable U23 strikers in Champion America, is also now a tier 3 as a result of everything that's kind of happened recently. There's Fran Garcia of Vallecano. Kuchiba, they've got one of their boys in there. They're a newly licensed team also. I suppose they come into the reckoning with all this. Same with Sion. And yeah, it's such a, but U23 is such a bigger pool as well because that is global. It's just also age restricted. Brooks Lennon is down there as a tier 3. And even though I know MLS probably isn't your bag, or some of you won't be your bag, but U23 forward will be, he'll be O23 next season, or after July. So you'll get him U23 for the beginning of the next MLS season and lose him halfway throughout. A guy that can get decisives and has the last 5 of those scores in the tier 3 pool. It's definitely a nice card to pull, I tell you that. I think I won him as a tier 3 super rare, and I was fucking buzzing that I won that. Arne Meyer, former, I forget what the award is, but there's a really prestigious award Germany give out to like their top 17-year-old every year. He won that. He's a good guy. Alexander Schmidt, who's been injured and stuff, so he probably is quite appropriately a tier 3. So he's just coming back from injury with some poor form. And then yeah, I'm still finding a lot of champion and non-EU guys, but I think I've seen enough there to feel confident in the theory that I'm working with at the moment with you guys now. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed that. Like I said in the last video, if I've missed something, you want to add your thoughts to the conversation, get it in the comment section down below. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I will, of course, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.